What if the key to unlocking every child's potential was also a blueprint for their exploitation? The future of education often gleams with the promise of personalization, a world where learning adapts to the individual, not the other way around. Imagine for a moment you have access to a system fueled by a universal education dividend, where public funds flow directly to students, empowering them to select their own educational journeys from a vibrant marketplace of innovative providers. This vision is undeniably alluring. You'd experience liberation from rigid, standardized curricula, your education meticulously tailored to ignite your individual passions and sculpt clear pathways to your aspirational careers. It is a future that whispers of unlocking the full, unique potential inherent in every child, perhaps even your own child, or someone you care about. The appeal lies in the fundamental principles of choice and innovation, suggesting a dynamic educational landscape constantly evolving to meet students' diverse needs. But what if this utopian landscape casts a long, ominous shadow? The very mechanisms engineered for liberation inadvertently forge new, unseen chains. The unfettered educational choice, implemented without robust, vigilant safeguards, can deviate from its noble intentions and lead to devastating consequences. I'll take you through a speculative future, a cautionary tale designed to uncover the potential dangers lurking beneath the surface of an idealized educational revolution. The central question we will tackle is whether absolute freedom in educational markets, without corresponding accountability, can truly serve the best interests of all students, particularly the most vulnerable. The year was 2185 when Elara first stepped through the gleaming gates of Aura Prime. Her parents, Kim and Gerard, beamed with pride as they watched their talented daughter enter the exclusive academy. The universal education dividend had made this possible. Their modest income could never have afforded such an opportunity. This was everything they dreamed of for their daughter. What they couldn't know was that behind Aura Prime's dazzling facade lurked a predator. Rexford Black, the Academy's founder, had perfected the art of exploitation, creating a system where young talents like Elara became commodities in his twisted marketplace. 6 months into her time at Aura Prime, Elara sat alone in her dormitory, staring at the notification that her performance evaluation had been scheduled in Black's private residence. The knot in her stomach tightened. These evaluations had become increasingly uncomfortable, blurring the lines between mentorship and something far more sinister. A knock at her door startled her. Another student, Tira, entered with bloodshot eyes. "You got called too?" Elara nodded, the weight of their shared understanding hanging between them. "I tried to report him last month. My UED account was frozen the next day. They said I violated some obscure clause in the enrollment agreement." She laughed bitterly. "My parents can't afford to send me anywhere else. I'm trapped." This was the dark reality of their gilded cage, a system designed for freedom that had become the perfect mechanism for control. The UED, meant to empower students, had become the very chain that bound them to their abuser. If you're finding this story thought-provoking, kick that like button. 5 years later, journalist Finn Cross sat across from a now 19-year-old Elara in a nondescript cafe far from Aura Prime's campus. His recorder captured her trembling voice as she detailed the systematic abuse that had flourished under the guise of elite education. The oversight was a joke. Annual reviews consisted of pre-packaged student testimonials and carefully orchestrated facility tours. Black's network of influential allies ensured that any complaints vanished into bureaucratic black holes. Finn's investigation had uncovered dozens of similar stories across various prestigious UED-funded institutions. The pattern was clear and deeply disturbing. Charismatic founders exploiting the fragmented oversight of the educational marketplace to create personal fiefdoms where abuse thrived unchecked. From the ivy-covered walls of Luminous Academy to the sleek glass towers of Zenith Institute, predators like Black had established elaborate systems of control, using their institutions' reputations as shields against scrutiny, while wielding UED funding as both lure and leash for vulnerable students. What had begun as a single exposé on Aura Prime had mushroomed into a nationwide investigation spanning 3 years, with victims from across the globe coming forward with eerily similar accounts. The founders, almost always men of considerable wealth and social standing, had mastered the art of manipulating accreditation loopholes, while cultivating powerful allies in regulatory bodies who could be counted on to look the other way, or provide cover when complaints surfaced. Their institutions, marketed as exclusive pathways to success, operated as perfectly designed traps for ambitious young talents desperate to secure their futures in an increasingly competitive world. What makes this particularly insidious, Finn later explained to his editor, is how the UED system itself creates the perfect conditions for exploitation. Students risk everything by speaking out. Their funding, their future careers, everything. And with oversight dispersed across hundreds of accrediting bodies, accountability falls through the cracks. Imagine being in Elara's shoes for a moment. Your dreams, your funding, your entire future on the line. What would you even do? It's a terrifying dilemma, and it underscores the immense power these institutions hold. The more Finn dug, the more he uncovered a disturbing parallel to historical cases. The tactics employed by figures like Sean Combs, R. Kelly, and Peter Nygaard had found new life in this educational landscape, cloaked in the respectability of academic credentials and empowered by public funding. These men had created sophisticated systems of exploitation that were now being replicated with frightening precision within institutions like Aura Prime. The pattern was unmistakable. Charismatic leaders like Rexford Black, using promises of career advancement to lure young talents, isolating them from support networks, establishing financial control through UED funding, and eventually subjecting them to increasingly inappropriate private workshops and encounters. What particularly disturbed Finn was how these modern predators had refined their predecessors' methods, learning from their mistakes. Where Nygaard had used company resources to silence victims, these educational entrepreneurs had institutional policies that automatically froze a student's UED funding upon filing complaints, as Tira had discovered to her devastation. Where R. Kelly had physically isolated victims, these academies did so legitimately through exclusive residential programs that restricted outside contact under the guise of immersive learning environments. The exploitation occurred not in hidden rooms but in plain sight, behind doors labeled executive mentorship sessions and elite performance training. Jace Morgan, a former detective-turned-child welfare advocate, reviewed Finn's draft article with a grim expression. "This isn't just about a few bad actors," he noted. "This is a systemic vulnerability. The UED creates a power dynamic where students are isolated from traditional support systems and entirely dependent on these institutions." Maya Rivers, joining their discussion virtually, added, "The tragedy is that the core concept of personalized education isn't inherently flawed, but without robust safeguards, independent oversight, trauma-informed reporting mechanisms, regular unannounced inspections, we've created hunting grounds for predators." Lexi Valdez, who had invested in several ethical educational startups, leaned forward. "We need to reimagine how we implement educational choice. Transparency and accountability can't be afterthoughts, they must be foundational. What does this mean for you, for your communities, for the future you're helping to build?" Leave your answer in the comment section below. The group's discussion highlighted the critical balance needed, preserving the benefits of educational choice and personalization while implementing uncompromising protections for students. The nightmare that Elara and countless others experienced wasn't inevitable, it was the result of prioritizing market freedom over human safety. As Finn's exposé went public, sparking outrage and calls for reform, Elara's testimony became a powerful catalyst. Her story illuminated how the dream of educational liberation had, for too many, become a carefully crafted nightmare, and how the path forward required not abandoning the vision of personalized education, but ensuring it was built on a foundation of safety, transparency, and genuine accountability. The Universal Education Dividend had promised to break down old barriers. The challenge now was ensuring it didn't simply replace them with new, more insidious ones. As I close this exploration of educational possibilities and perils, I believe we stand at a crossroads that demands your attention and our collective wisdom. The story of Elara, the Universal Education Dividend, and the complex landscape of educational choice isn't just speculative fiction. It's a mirror reflecting the critical decisions you and I, and all of us, must make today. The promise of personalized education remains as compelling as ever. The vision of students empowered to pursue their unique passions, supported by innovative technologies and diverse learning environments, continues to inspire educators, policymakers, and families worldwide. But as you've seen through this cautionary tale, the path to educational liberation is fraught with potential pitfalls that you and I ignore at our peril. The question for all of us is, how can we pursue educational innovation and choice responsibly? Build systems that truly serve students while protecting the most vulnerable. Balance market freedom with essential oversight. Ensure that in our rush to disrupt traditional education does not inadvertently create new forms of exploitation. These aren't just policy questions. They're moral imperatives that will shape the lives of countless young people for generations to come. Every choice influences accountability structures, funding mechanisms, touching the dreams and futures of students like Elara. The future of education, the collective will of communities like yours, who refuse to accept that innovation must not come at the cost of safety, that choice must not come at the expense of protection, that progress must not leave the vulnerable behind. What are your biggest concerns, or perhaps your most innovative ideas, for ensuring safety and accountability as education continues to evolve? I would love to hear your perspective. Please share your thoughts in the comments below.